John Davis, New York City, Bunker Studios.
Let's go. Now, here we go again.
Yes, here we go again. Third time lucky here. The gremlins are out in force, including your mute buttons.
Yep, mute buttons on the FSL. First couple channels are flickering for some reason.
Are they lonely? Are they miserable that it's only you in the studio?
GoPro is... Oh, you know what?
What?
I think it's because I have the voice control. I said stop recording, and so it
did.
Let me turn off while I'm doing this. Okay, I think it's still rolling.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna.
That's fine. We can keep rolling. I don't care.
Yeah, we'll keep rolling while
I hate editing.
This
so
is really good. It's like I feel like you don't usually get to see me have massive amounts of trouble with a piece of consumer technology.
It's always really smooth. I come to the studio, everything's prepped, microphones are in place, we record an album, we chat for 10 minutes, and I go home.
I guess as long as I don't say the name of this camera and then the words "stop" and "recording,"
yeah, then you're good to go.
That's what happened because I had it set that way for snowboarding.
Oh, bar on my. Oh, this is going so well. Oh my god.
Experts.
We are home. It's like home recording rookies right now. I don't know what is going on. We've both been shunted back 20 years of experience.
Yeah. Oh man. Yes.
So
anyway,
dude, you're
rolling again. Are we all rolling?
We are all rolling, and you are rolling on a John Patitucci record, which is super exciting.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's a record that John did a couple years ago, as I was saying, for this label called Nouvelle, which is a subscription-based, like vinyl-only thing, and only people who subscribe can get it. They don't do a digital version.
Nice.
The label pays for everything, and they have an exclusive license for a certain number of years, and then when that's done, the artist gets the masters.
No kidding.
So,
and they can do whatever they want with it.
Yep. Yeah.
Nice.
I think as long as they don't do the same thing. Like,
so are you remixing for digital right now? Is that what you're doing?
I'm remixing because John and the band were never completely happy with the mixes from the record the first time. It was kind of one of those things where they never really got it somewhere they wanted with the person they were working with and for the label.
Sure.
And eventually just had to sort of sign off on it being good enough.
Right.
Because it had to come out, and it was like,
right.
well,
time constraints, right?
Yeah, it was like they kept going back and forth and never really got it somewhere that they loved, and so
who's on the record?
Jotam Silverstein on guitar, and Rogerio Beto on percussion.
Cool.
So just trio, just acoustic bass, mostly acoustic bass, a couple electric things.
Nice.
It's all like Brazilian, like classic Brazilian tunes. But
no kidding.
Reimagined really nicely.
Wow, I knew John was way into that, like from way back on his Mistura Fina record.
Of course.
Might be the only bass solo I've ever transcribed.
Huh?
Is one of his on there. No kidding. So I guess not. What was the distribution on that? Like, this is going to be fairly new to most people, right? I would imagine.
Right. Yeah. So I think John's just going to do it. His own, whatever. Sell it online. I don't know if he's going to do physical CDs. He wasn't sure about that, but it'll be ready to go in whatever
nice
format he wants to do digitally. Yeah.
Cool.
So,
how many tracks? How long do you reckon you're going to be working on it? 1 or 2 days or something like that?
Yeah, today and tomorrow.
Okay.
Today and tomorrow. So yeah, I just finished the first tune and sent it to him and Jotam, and they're both super happy with it. So
nice.
No revisions, so now
another day in the life of John Davis.
Now I just crank through the rest of the record. Like people are happy,
Do you set up a template like that, basically, when it's a trio and it's not so complicated, so you can pretty much have most of it in the ballpark once you've got 1 or 2 songs done?
I mean, kind of, since I'm mixing always like all on the console, all analog. Once I get my settings, as long as the instrumentation doesn't change, I've got my basic sounds, and then I'm really just adjusting per song and adjusting per if the instrumentation changes or like the vibe is a little different, then I make little tweaks here and there to the sounds and balance it for each tune.
And like you said that there's like a little bit of both on there, like electric and acoustic.
He plays some electric bass on it. I started with an acoustic bass tune.
Okay.
So,
and when you have that on a record, like you've worked with John before, you play
Yeah.
electric and acoustic, and you've mixed a ton of records that have both on them. Are you trying to nail a certain frequency and a certain location of the mix so that that's there regardless of the type of bass? Are you like trying to fill a certain area, or is it really just about sculpting it around the instrument?
I guess it. I feel like in records like that where there's both, a lot of times the electric bass generally functions more in an acoustic way. So, the acoustic bass has its thing, and the electric bass obviously has a different thing. But if the rest of the album has a more acoustic vibe and the drum sounds work with that, I'm not going to really try and make the electric bass be like huge and massive and
Right.
unless the album really sort of has two personalities, like a very electric side and a very acoustic side.
Sure.
But if it's essentially an acoustic group that just happens to have some electric bass in it, then I'm not going to go for a sort of hyper magnified,
Yeah.
blown up electric sound.
And tightening up the kick and all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah.
Right, exactly. It's not really that. It's not really the vibe. And John, gets such an amazing sound just the way he plays. Like he as from him also, as we all do, it's like the electric bass is very much an acoustic instrument. So
For sure. He's one of those guys who actually practices without the amp a lot. You know, regardless of whether he's playing that semi-hollow or whether it's the old Yamaha. I've always been amazed at that. And he's a guy who's like no problem recording on just headphones with no amp in the room.
Oh yeah. He's so easy. He's so easy to work with.
Yeah.
And,
the total opposite of me, basically.
Yeah, you're the second easiest to work with. Put you in a room with a good sounding amp,
I do like the amp
Put
thing.
a good band in the rest of the studio and hit record.
Yes, I'm a big fan of that. I'm also because I've been. I want to grill you. This is great. I don't have to just like blow up the text because we're actually doing it for a reason, and we can share this with thousands of people. Because I'm launching this new pedal show. It's called the Pedal Studio. It's going to be on YouTube, and it's because there's not so much out there for just bass pedals. It's like 100-to-1 guitar to bass, right? Every time you look something up. So,
right.
Okay, so great. So I have all these pedals, hundreds of pedals. I'm going to feature them, but it's going to be crap unless the sound is awesome. Like the quality of the sample, like to actually, especially as it's coming through YouTube. So what are some things that I can do, and everyone listening who has the same home recording questions? Like right behind me, I'm playing through the Aguilar. I do have a mic on the amp, although it's only an SM7. I know that's not ideal.
It's a good mic. I mean, it's a good mic.
It's okay, but it doesn't get much room sound because it's quite a close mic, right?
Right.
So there's that, and then I'm using the Noble as my DI, and I have a dozen other ones. Are there some signal chain things or things to look out for that you would say, okay, absolutely do this, and that will improve what you're doing?
Hey, you know what? Patitucci's calling me right now.
Do you
mind if
cool.
I just take it on air?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, John.
Put him on speaker.
Hey, how's that? I'm good. Hey, I'm actually chatting with Janek right now. Do you mind if I throw this on speaker for a sec? All right, hang on a sec. All right, here we go.
Hey, John.
Hey, man, what's going on?
How you doing, buddy?
We're just trying to deal with the cards we're being dealt at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. Trying to be productive throughout.
Yep.
Absolutely. And just trying to do a little rope-a-dope with all these gig cancellations.
Yeah, join the club.
Yeah.
But we got to. I know one thing though. This is no joke. This whole virus thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not a joke, and some people are underestimating it, and including the gangster in chief in America.
Oh yeah, this whole 2-week thing, and we're going to be back to normal is just so out of whack.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just psychopathic. Cat is like, he's a whack job. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Gonna mix
Anyway.
a trio record by the sounds of things.
Yeah, mix a record.
Dream record. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Trying to do that, you know?
Yeah. John, did you get a chance to listen to that the one with the overheads up a dB?
I think it's cool. I mean, as long as you don't think I overdid it.
No, I think it's nice. It gives a little bit more like color in the you can hear a little bit more of the color in the cymbals, you know.
Yeah, I dig it.
Kind of a little bit. It actually reminds me a little bit more of like the vibe on One More Angel a little.
That's a good direction
because all the color in the cymbals is like super important.
Yeah, as a drummer, he's more akin to emotion than some of the other guys who sound more like drummers.
Right, it's more colors and percussion and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, you're the man.
Awesome.
I haven't heard from him at all, so I don't know what his feeling is.
Cool. Well, yeah, Yotam was psyched, so I'm just going to,
Did he hear it with the DB up thing?
No, I'll send it to him, but he was totally psyched with the sounds and stuff. So I feel like little details.
He got a guitar sound. Yeah, man.
Well,
that's great.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna get back chat with Janek for a few more minutes, and then I'm gonna hop into the next tune, and I'll send you that one when I got it in a good place.
Yeah, and Janek, by the way, hope your record's doing well. It was really a pleasure.
Oh man, yeah, it's great, man. Every time it comes on, like randomly in my playlist, I'm like, it's good memories and such good vibes, man. And I get such a ton of great feedback on it as well. So super happy that happened.
Excellent.
Yeah, man.
All right, man. Well, God bless you guys. Take it easy. I'll talk to you, Sir John, later.
All right, man. All right, dude. I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the nicest person alive.
On Earth, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, why isn't he 20 years younger and running for local office? I don't know.
He's still younger than anyone else.
Yeah, exactly.
For office,
currently running or not. Well, awesome. We couldn't have scripted that any better.
I know. Perfect.
The bass legend pop in, yes. Yep. Never a dull moment here at Gwizdala Studios. So yeah, we were just about to get to like a little home recording, like what to look out for when your setup is so simple. It's a preamp DI, it's an amp, and it's an interface, and that's kind of it. Like, what are you looking for?
Yeah, well, I think one of the big problems that I see with like home recording, but also even some sort of like semi-pro and some pro recording, is a lot of times people try to record things too hot. Like really, try and get like as much signal as possible.
Okay.
And you do want some, but one of the things is that like with bass pedals especially, I always find that it's like there's always a struggle kind of with headroom with bass in general, especially. It's like, with pedals, you sometimes have like, as you know, like sometimes it's hard to negotiate the massive differences in level.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the things that's tricky is, people, I think a lot of people assume you have to track it like as hot as possible, and then it ends up being like kind of sounding pinched sounding, like, a lot of the cheaper converters don't sound good when they're right up against their sort of maximum voltage, you know? So, generally speaking, it's like when I'm recording stuff, not to get too deep into like audio theory, but all analog gear since, I don't know, probably the 50s or something, when they decided on what the constant was, all work around 0 VU as sort of like the nominal level, and every VU meter you see, it's like from -20 goes up to 0, and then above that is red up to like +3 or whatever.
Sure.
And one of the things that's so basically for most of your instruments, you want to have stuff hanging out with your average levels like around 0. Sometimes going up, sometimes a little down. It's not a big deal if you go hot. It's not a big deal if you're quiet, but you don't really want to like hang out always pinned, and there's also no reason to like record stuff really low.
Right.
When you're back in the tape days, you would either be dealing with like too much noise if you recorded quiet, or distortion if you recorded hot. So aiming for that nominal level, that's kind of where all audio gear sounds the best, is around its nominal level.
Okay.
And the thing with digital is that when they started making digital stuff, they switched to a scale that is just 0 is at the top. It's the absolute loudest you can go, and everything is negative from there.
Huh. Okay.
So the scales aren't really compatible. So, and every converter has a different reference point of where analog 0 is. So, for instance, on my converters, analog 0 is -18 on my Pro Tools.
Wow.
So that means when my if my bass is hanging out around 0 on the mixing console, I still have 18 dB of headroom for like a transient, or for the person to dig in really hard before my converters are going to flip, and any of the sound coming out of the converters, if it's the average level is in the sort of -18, -16, -12, it's generally going to hit all of the analog stuff around where it's been designed to be hit.
Wow. So you have like
an
an audio safety net built in, basically.
Exactly, which is similar to the safety net that's built in with analog stuff, with tape, where it's like, the tape saturates, it gives you some compression, it doesn't automatically distort completely. Whereas
Gotcha.
digital stuff, if you're you're trying to keep your levels at -3, and then it goes over, like it sounds terrible when you go over digitally.
Yeah.
So one of the first things I'd say is record it a little bit more conservatively volume wise, maybe so your average levels around like -12,
Okay.
peaking around like -6 to -3.
All right. I'm looking at my VU meter on the interface right now. Just
Yep.
Okay, here it is. And you are peaking
Yep.
at certain times on that channel.
Yep.
But still the waveform in Logic looks super small.
Yeah, waveform drawing in some software sometimes can be kind of weird, because you can zoom it, sometimes it doesn't show up right, all this.
So are you saying like trust the VU meter rather than the drawn waveform more? Or it just varies from system to system?
The meter on Pro Tool, on Logic?
Yeah. No, I'm talking about on my interface, like
right.
Actual monitoring.
But then I'm saying, is the meter on Logic showing?
No, not at all. It's actually pretty low.
Huh.
Yeah. That's weird. So there's looks like a super imbalance between the interface and the and Logic. Interesting.
But there could be some settings in the metering. That's the thing that gets complicated too.
Okay.
Is like all the software, you can change how it meters, how it behaves, and then it's like I'll show real quick here just for fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So interesting. So many layers I didn't even think about, because I'm dealing with basically two surface elements.
Yeah.
Of my interface and a monitor with Logic in it, not the back end.
Yeah. So let me pull this GoPro over here real quick. Cool. I can look at my screen. So if I play, this bass track here. Where is it? Come on, just bass. Oh, there we go. Okay. Master fader was down. So you know who that is.
On the shittiest audio coming through my FaceTime and headphones 8 times removed, John still sounds like an angel playing the bass. It's just unreal.
And so, if you look at the meters that I've got here, right now, if I click with my left click, I get like 20 different options of metering, and they all respond totally differently. So if I switch it to VU, all of a sudden it looks really low. Like some of the stuff is not even showing up on the meter. If I switch it to digital VU, all of a sudden it looks extremely loud.
Okay.
If I switch it to linear, which one is that? Is that also looks really loud? Anyway, the point is, like, it can be really confusing looking at software. Pro Tools Classic is just kind of what I'm used to.
Okay.
Because I kind of know that, like, right around where it turns yellow is usually where I like stuff hanging out in between green and yellow. Is
Gotcha.
like makes me kind of happy there.
Okay.
But then there's these. It's really a crazy.
But generally speaking, across the board, regardless of which platform you're in, you want to be looking at recording things not as hot as perhaps you think you should.
Right. Exactly. Because
that's a good rule of thumb. That's something I'm guilty of smashing every time, and just
it's really tough, and it's one of the things that I guess is also just tough because, as you know, having done stuff in so many studios, like doing stuff at home, doing stuff, with me here in this room, it's like a variable in a monitoring environment is like it changes everything. And one of the things that I always find is really helpful is, and it goes hand in hand with this, because if you record lower, then you might not feel like it's like, oh, I can't really hear it, like there's not enough of it. And it's like, well, just turn the speakers up. Okay. Just turn up your volume knob, and then it lets it breathe more. It's the same as like with it's the same as playing bass. It would be like you don't want to leave the master on the amp on 1 and crank the preamp and then be like, why is there no punch?
Right.
It's like floor the master if you want as much dynamics as possible,
and then dial in the gain. Yeah.
Right. If you're not looking for gain side effects like any sag or compression.
Right.
So
awesome. Okay. And then a basic like direct signal or whatever DI is pretty much the same across the board, no matter what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I mean the Noble's great. The DI that's built into the tone hammer is great.
Yep.
There's DIs that sound more luxurious and less luxurious, but they all basically do the same thing, unless there's something wrong with it. It's like they all
and
get
then
the sound.
In terms of like, I'm super happy that I'm not actually mixing anything in terms of a guitar and drums and bass like a band, because that's just a whole. I might as well be learning to speak Aramaic or something. It's just I feel like a total idiot. But when it comes to actually just having a bass signal, what is the thing, or what are the things of 2 or 3 things that help it translate when it gets out there to digital format, to Instagram, to YouTube, to a little pair of earbuds like this? Are we thinking about compression? I'm so guilty. I'm that guy who goes in the little drop-down menu of mastering presets in Logic and goes, maybe this one,
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely tricky.
And different every time, I would imagine as well, right?
Different every time. I mean, one of the little things, that can really help with clarity and especially translation with bass is like a lot of times getting rid of like some of the extreme lows that are below what would normally come out, and especially in a situation where you're aiming for like playback on shitty sounding speakers or whatever. So
gotcha. So you're talking about an EQ on the master bus then,
or on the channel even.
Okay.
Like I might put I really like the not to hawk any plugins because I don't get any of them for free or any of that shit. But the Fab Filter, EQ, and actually the EQ and the compressor and the limiter are all like I don't really use a lot of plugins. That's kind of like I'm just more into the hardware stuff.
Sure.
But their stuff is really good, especially for like really precise EQ stuff. And so, a lot of times I'll use those in the box before it comes out and hits the console or the outboard, just to like roll a little bit of high end off if I want to have like a really subtle high cut or a really subtle low cut, to get rid of like thump.
With that EQ, you're seeing those 2 dips at the end, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So that's one of the things I would do, and again, like a little bit of EQ like that, a little bit of compression can go a long way in sort of the perceived presence of the instrument.
I've been watching all these like mixing guys. One guy I like for huge rock records like Muse and all that kind of stuff is Chris Lord, Angel.
Oh, Chris Lord Algae. Yeah,
Algae.
yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And I
I think that's what he
noticed.
said, I don't know.
Yeah, I noticed like when he's mixing, he'll go and here I am doing something with the guitars, and he'll just open everything all the way up and then
Yeah.
dial it back.
Yeah.
I just noticed that's a technique of his, like going through stuff, and I always end up pushing it too much. I think when I hear it, I've always gone way too much and then not dialed it back enough. So are you
Exactly.
Is that something
Exactly.
do you say, okay, I'm going to go a little bit further than I think in terms of dialing it back? Or
Definitely. I mean, when I'm EQing stuff, for sure, I do that. I mean, that's one of the reasons I like, when I'm mixing, a lot of times I'll make sure, like, I'll just tell the client, like, if they're coming, I mean, obviously they can't come now, but,
right.
I'll just tell them, like, don't bother coming for the first 2 hours, because I'm just going to be making it sound like really bad at times to find,
like poking things out to see where the issues are.
Yeah, grabbing the mid-range EQ on the console and turning it all the way up and sweeping it around until everything sounds terrible and distorted. finding the stuff that's really annoying and then taking out a tiny bit of it.
Right.
And the same goes for boosting, over boosting something until you find the right thing and then dial it back just a hair. There's a lot of that, and you kind of have to hear what's too far and then pull it back probably further than you think, and then it's usually good the next time you hear it. It's
right. And are there things you use for reference? Are there like staples where you go back and say, oh, I know I'm in this ballpark, so let me listen to this? Or do you just have a vast library of experience now that you know where it's at, right?
Yeah, at this point, I don't really reference stuff unless an artist has a really specific thing that they are like, I love the relationship of this and this on this record, and I'll check it out. But usually just for big picture concept, because everything's different and you can't really trust a reference because it's never going to sound like that. Right. So it's like, I have an amazing sounding room and I've learned the room, and so I just do, I know if I make it sound good in here, it's going to be cool, basically, nice. At this point, which I'm very fortunate to have that kind of a situation.
Okay. And like, what are some things people can be paying attention to, like when they listen to stuff? Like, because I'm getting so many questions right now, and I always do, like, maybe somebody's got an injury and they can't practice bass, for instance. I say, well, get to listening, like regardless of what, get to listening and start picking out this and that, make a list of things you want to transcribe. But what are some like sonic things people can be paying attention to that, okay, this thing is that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things, like, I think sometimes there's like, you can listen for things like, I always like to try and listen to analyze, try and take apart like how much reverb or how much effects are actually on things that I might perceive as being like very different. Where like I think like there's a ton of reverb on something, or my mind imagines it being like a really wet sounding record, and then you listen to it and it's like actually super dry, and that's something sometimes you just, sometimes like actually listen to it and like listen to a whole song and like just listen to the snare drum and the reverb on the snare or something, or just listen to the vocal, how bright the vocal is, how much low end there is on the vocal,
I'm always fascinated by the combinations of what is reverb and what is delay, and how, like on a vocal or something, and how those are blended. And like the times I've heard something about, oh, that's a nice reverb, and gone in, and the engineer's like, no, that's actually a delay.
Yeah, there's no reverb on that.
Yeah, right.
What do you mean? Like,
I love
no reverb on that.
I love
like,
those moments. Everyone asks me, one of the most common questions I get is like, what reverb are you using for your solo sound? I'm like, not a reverb, that's a delay. Right.
Well, also, I mean, that's a great example, because like even when you play without effects, like the way that you play and your sound, people might think that there is anyway, or they'll hear that air and it's not dry and just because of the way that you're playing. And one of the examples I always think of when we're talking about this is one of my perennial favorites for anyone who knows me. It's like no fucking surprise. It's Radiohead. Like newsflash.
Yeah.
John's referencing Radiohead.
Just in.
But it's shocking actually how often Tom York's voice is completely dry.
Okay.
which like is the last thing you would think of when you imagine a Radiohead record.
Yeah. Huge
You
wet
think of
rush
like,
sound.
oh, it's so wet and
Yeah.
there's like so much effects and everything is, and then you sit down and listen to it and you're like, oh, that guitar's dry. There's just a little bit of space echo on it. It's like, well, drums are dry.
Yeah.
Vocals completely dry. It's like, oh, there's one synth with reverb on it, you know, or something. And you're like, but in your head, it's like every aux on the console is up all the way
Right.
into the echo, you know, but it's the way that they actually play and the way that he sings has a certain spaciousness to it. And so you just kind of, you assume that it's there even when oftentimes it's like really dry.
Do you have the same kind of self-editing process, like the cranking the mid-range, finding the thing, and then dialing it back? Do you have that same process when you're developing sounds for Nerve on bass to play live?
Yeah.
Do you go super extreme? Do you leave the ability to have the super extreme element in the sounds with expression pedals, or are you really kind of focusing in on certain areas of the mix?
It varies. I mean, these days I think my rig is a little bit more controlled sounding than maybe it's been in the past.
Okay.
Which again, for better or for worse, there is sometimes that nice thing when you can kind of push it a little far into chaos. And
Do you still have the oh shit button?
Yeah, but unfortunately it's not doing anything right now. So I have to. It's not. That was working with the old Line 6.
Yeah, I remember. It was such a cool button. Just says "oh shit"
It's
on
gonna.
it.
It will live again. It will live again with the H9s. I have to do some programming.
Yes. By the way,
yeah.
very scarily impressed with HX Stomp.
Oh yeah.
On some harmonizing stuff.
Nice.
Could not believe it. Like no difference between the H9 and the HX Stomp.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
That's cool. I mean, I should maybe check that out.
I just wish the H9 you could layer sounds. Like that's it. It's a one-trick pony, and like you have to have two.
That's why I have two.
Yeah, and even then, two sounds.
Yeah.
And like something like the HX Stomp, although in certain areas maybe not as robust, everything does good stuff in different places. You can layer, parallel 6 sounds in each chat. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I think Line 6 has, with the M series stuff, the M9, like they definitely set the bar pretty high, and I think this new stuff takes that even further.
Yeah, and I know they're working on stuff as well, like expanding the looping capabilities, and just, I mean, digital technology has to just get better, right? I mean, it's not like Eventide's thing is a secret, or anyone's stuff is a secret anymore,
Right. Yeah, it hasn't been a secret since like 1978. like Eno and Visconti had the only H910. That's like, how are they doing that sound on Heroes? And it was like 3 years later, I was like, oh, I bought one of those too.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So you have the two H9s, but you're also getting into like some like analog synth modeling or something now, right? With the pedal board.
Oh, I'm using some like analog modular synth.
Sorry, yeah.
Stuff like from a Eurorack. So my filters, my low pass and my high pass filter, I've gone through a couple iterations with that. It was of course like the Moog, the Moger-Foger.
Yeah, up on the shelf behind me, yeah.
For a long time, and
you had that badass big Iron Ether. Was that a one-off that they built for you?
Yeah.
Oh my God,
there was a high pass and a low pass in one. And it sounded really good.
As soon as you're ready to sell it, I'm here.
I'll put it in the mail. It's on the shelf. I think I just have to put it back together. I tried to split it into two pedals because I needed the high pass.
Did you ever use the Zerograph Deluxe, the newer one?
I have one. I haven't used it for this stuff.
That's what I have on my board right now. So
the issue that I had with that one is it was custom, and this is nothing against those guys at all because those products are amazing. But
incredible.
I asked for something very specific, and I needed it to respond to control voltage from my MP201, not to expression voltage.
Yeah.
And so they, did a custom thing for me, and it worked, but there was like lag on the CV.
Okay. I guess that's something that really needs like developing and testing over time, right? Rather than just
like
being
if they were going to
build.
make a CV compatible thing, it wasn't ready for prime time with that, and it was, it was lag to the point with what I do with my foot that it was like it just if I move my pedal like really fast, like wow, like the filter would go like ooh.
Oh.
Like it was lagging, like in order to smooth the CV, it had like a delay or something. So it was fine if I was doing really slow filter sweeps, but if I tried to do, envelope-y type stuff, it would just.
So you're saying the Eurorack stuff, the modular stuff is like super reactive.
Well, yeah. Then I just decided I was like, well, if I'm using control voltage, which is already modular synth control voltage, I'm like, why don't I just find some modular filters that sound good with the bass and build a box for them on the floor. Right. So,
Nice.
But
and are they robust enough to take on the road? They always seem like with all the cables going in and out a little on the delicate side.
Yeah, Eurorack is kind of it's there's some amazing stuff, but it's a pretty shitty format. Like from a physical, physically it's like little 1/8" jacks.
Right.
And, so I sourced right angle plugs.
Okay.
1/8" right angle
stop
plugs.
Them getting like snapped off and stuff.
So I didn't have to unpatch them every night for it to be safe. And I built a rack that had wooden sides that like came up higher than all the knobs and stuff. So it's pretty safe.
But it took some like DIY, like home building to make it happen.
Yeah, I had to.
Do you still have everything in an SKB, like a rifle case or something?
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
It's
or Pelican.
It's a Pelican. It's a Pelican.
Yeah.
When Temple boards, which I use for my pedal board, when they first came out, they were using Pelicans as their. So I got it from them.
Gotcha.
Custom made for the board.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it's amazing. I think now they're doing like more of an anvil style case. I think maybe they couldn't. Pelicans are expensive. I think they still offer that as an option. If you want to buy a Pelican and send it to them, they'll customize the inside.
Nice.
But I think it was like too much.
It's like the Ferrari of cases.
Right. I mean, it's awesome, but you can't have that really be your standard. A $300 case or
you're
whatever. You're checking
the pedals and the bass?
Yeah.
And carrying on the clothes?
Yep.
Nice. Okay. Wow, I'm checking
the
clothes.
Civilian style.
Yeah, I'm checking the clothes and the bass and carrying on the pedals now. It wasn't fun.
Yeah, I just I did so many of those types of European tours that I know that you've done a billion of, with some lot like bombardier propeller plane with like a 2-in-1 rows.
The Q4, I hate those ones, man. Especially when you get like seat 4D next to the propeller and you're like, oh, I don't want to be here.
Yeah, and trying to, and I realized it was like every day you're basically like, you're put into this really negative, like aggressive mindset.
Because you're always on the defense,
in the morning, because you're like, I've got my bass, you can't fucking take my bass.
Right.
And it's like, wait, I could just like have a suitcase.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And then it's even better when they're like, would you like us to check your suitcase for you as well? And you're
yes,
like,
please. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I've just got mine Freitag and I'll just take it to the airport, And
when you're not carrying a bass on, people don't talk to you.
Right.
Like when I carried the bass for like 15 years, everyone's like, "Oh man, you in a band?" I'm like, "Oh, the worst question." It's like, yeah, I hate that. I don't know how to answer that question, because if you say yes, oh yeah, what's the name of your band? Oh yeah, Nerve. Oh, you never heard of them, mate? Yeah, I know. Were you expecting me to say Bon Jovi? I mean, Jesus. This is a Delta puddle hopper, not a private jet. Of course, I'm not in a band you've heard of, you leptoid, And then you get like, oh yeah, I play some guitar. Well, great, I'm a bass player. Oh yeah, what's that? So yeah, not carrying a bass.
My name's Terry.
Yeah, my name's Terry. Okay, sorry to everyone called Terry out there, but
Yeah.
And yeah, just the saving of the back muscles and like carrying crap through airports, just not a good look.
Yeah. Also, I realized I think everyone sort of justifies the well, if the stuff gets lost, like how can I play the show?
Yeah, you borrow a bass.
Right.
Or have a
And,
night
like,
off. Those are my extreme measures.
right. Well, it's like for me, I realized it's like, well, the pedals matter more. I
100%.
can't carry those on, and
Uh,
also, I
that's
mean,
why I'm carrying them on, to be
my
honest.
pedal board
Yours is huge.
is a little too big and
Yeah.
too heavy.
Yeah.
You know,
And mine was already like a pedal train 2, about this
Yep.
big, and I'm already having it professionally built to be like 2/3 of the size, and then
Yeah.
with a pedal riser that's hinged, so a lot of stuff is hidden underneath. Then it's going to be fine.
right.
But
No, I mean, and that's awesome. Like, to do it that way is totally awesome. But I just love the not carrying anything
yeah,
around.
yeah, me too. I just feel like the pedals, like you said, they are important. I don't know.
They're important, but on the other hand, I also realized, you know, out of like the 300 to 500 people who are going to come to the Nerve show, someone's got an OC2.
Oh, for sure. You can do the whole show with an OC2.
All I need is an OC2.
Literally, yeah.
All I need is an OC2. Nice.
Got a little hoodie on.
Freedom.
A little beanie, rather.
Yeah. Nice. But yeah, exactly. So I kind of realized it's like, well, if I don't have my bass, but I have my pedals, it may not really work that well anyway. Like, you know, the level is so different from every bass.
Right.
And also I'd be a whole lot more bummed to not be able to like take a shower and put on clean clothes while some of my stuff is missing.
Big time. Yeah.
Like, if my shit's missing, like, I can go to the gym and then take a shower and go to sleep in the hotel until my gear shows up.
Yep.
Or I can have my bass and feel terrible. You know, and also it's a lot easier. The other thing is a lot easier to convince an airline that they really need to find musical equipment than that they really need to find a
clothes.
small bag that has like a week and a half of clothes in it.
Yeah.
Like, they're really not very, it's hard to convince them that they really need to find that.
Yeah,
for
because
you.
everyone needs that, right?
Right, exactly. And it's sort of like, yeah, whatever. And so you'd be like, look, I have a concert tonight. You guys left my bass in Prague. Like, we need the bass to be
specifically Prague. I remember that.
the bass
Czech
also
Airlines
needs to be in Berlin with me right now, you know. And it's like it's much easier to make that happen.
You know, one of my biggest musical regrets ever was using my whatever custom Federa or whatever fancy bass I had at the time on Nerve tours. I wish I'd taken a P bass or a jazz bass, and I wish I'd had what we are talking about right now dialed in, like, and really not cared about what bass I played.
Yeah,
it's one of my, when I look back on touring.
I did like 1 or 2 tours with my Fodera with
the
Nerve,
fretless, right?
It really didn't work very well. I mean, the combination of it being fretless and me not being very good at fretless bass. And
but also when I was in the band, Jojo was also like, yeah, man, you should play a solo on this, you know, like on the dum dum to the gat, dum dum to the gat, that or Weather Report groove. What is that called?
Tribute.
There you go. He said, no, you should really solo on this, play fast. I was like, oh, not a good look. Speaking of the Italian pornography star himself, Jojo Mayer. Before we get off the chat, you built some pretty badass live effect stuff for him, which was
we made a little rig for him to make it kind of,
because back in the day it was the Line 6 DL4 next to the hi-hat pedal.
Yeah, so and like the D drum, the big stupid red D drum,
exactly,
for like 1 or 2 sounds,
exactly,
carrying around. So we did a really stripped down, but rig that can do all the same stuff.
Just triggers on the drums?
Just a trigger on the kick, and then 2 little trigger pads.
Nice.
Like no triggers on the acoustic drums except the kick, and this little Roland TM2 module, which is like $150, and it is like this big. It's
nice.
Like
size
and
of a
an
grapefruit.
Eventide H9 for the delays.
Nice. Okay, I wondered where the delays were coming from. That was going to be my next question.
And so we just built a little board that has those things, the 2 DIs for the thing, like our Alan and Heath little mixer for our in-ears, and it's just like a little board that he has like 1 power cord to plug in, a single AC that turns everything on, all the cables built in and dressed, and it's like
awesome. Yeah, because when we saw each other recently in Canada, and it was like great to sit out front with Aaron and listen to the show. And of course, I just wasn't sure like how much he was doing and how much Jojo was doing. And then I saw Jojo's new TEDx talk thing, and it was just him on his own. I was like, oh, some of that's definitely coming from Jojo. So that was cool to hear.
I mean, I think with the band, it's more there as like a safety net for Jojo. He really enjoys playing with those sounds in his in-ears.
Sure.
You know, Aaron doesn't really use much of them because the problem is like, you know, Jojo leaves them on all the time.
Gotcha. So
it's
Aaron
kind of
has
like
control to bring them in and out of the mix front of house.
Yeah,
that's cool.
but mostly he's doing his stuff, and then occasionally there might be a time where if JoJo's playing like a solo and reacting to his own stuff, he'll bring it up, you know. But because they tend to be kind of static is the only thing, of course. So it's like, but still definitely way better than the Line 6 filter delay.
Oh my God. Yes, sir. I remember those days. What was that? Centrafly?
Yeah.
On the pods. I did a few of those before you, and I was like, oh man, it was always a battle trying to dial that stuff in.
That was a tricky situation. The multiple stage thing is not easy.
But awesome.
It's cool. It's cool as long as you're not too far away.
Yeah.
As soon as you're more than like 10 feet away, that
was a
goes
problem.
out the window.
Even more so than that, like I could deal with the bullshit of being far away just to have the people there playing that music.
Right.
If we weren't doing like, you know, Jazz Fusion Odyssey Nerve, and we were actually like locked into proper big builds and big kind of grooves, it was amazing when people were that close.
Yeah, no, it's really a nice feeling. That aspect of it is great.
Yeah.
It's not an idea that scales well. We tried to do it. We tried it one time in Budapest at the big room in Club Aquarium there.
Oh yeah.
And it was great, but you know, we were like 30 feet apart.
Oh. That's tough.
And it was like, you know, I had to decide, like, well, do I play in time with the drum sound from the
slapback,
or the slapback off the back wall, or the sound that's in my in-ears that's like 30 milliseconds ahead of all of that, you know? And then because you get into this weird thing where it's like, well, if I play in time with my monitors, the people standing near me, it will sound like I'm rushing,
right?
But it will sound to JoJo and people by the stage like I'm in time. Like it only works when you're in a small enough space where it's like you feel the, you know, the whole thing. So
sure.
I don't know, whatever.
Cool. Well, dude, we sort of put the world to rights a little bit in terms of mixing, and I'm glad Patitucci
just kind of blabbed on for a while.
Hey man,
but,
that's podcasting, dude.
I haven't seen another person in like
I know, right? I'm loving this. I had like 65 episodes of this podcast of just me.
Yeah.
And
you
then
know what?
What's that?
Sorry. I'm getting the low battery mark on the GoPro.
Perfect.
So
here we go.
I think it's gonna cut us off for us.
Let's do that. Anyway, John from the Bunker Studios in New York, thebunkerstudio.com.
Janek, thank you so much, man.
And that's your website, right? Thebunkerstudios.com?
Bunker Studio.
Studio, no S.com. Go check John out, and go take your records there once all this coronavirus is over, or send them to John to be mixed right now.
Because I'm right here. I
John
got this mix room and
right there, sitting in front of an SSL waiting for your music. Can't wait to hear the Patitucci record, dude. And
I'll send it over to you.
Yeah, please, man. And I'll speak to you soon, brother.
All right, man.
All right, later.
See you later, bro.